Good afternoon, everyone. This is Chrisi from SolsticeATR and Balkan Capital Research. Today, what I'd like to go over is May 5th through May 10th, the overall market outlook for the following week. I do have up in front of me the Fortune 500 company, the NASDAQ, the Russell, as well as the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I am showing the weekly chart. It shows here, it says weekly 3-year outlook, but I'm showing as of June till June of the following year, 2 years outlook. If we notice from the prior year in November, when we retraced back down to that zero line and we came back up, we're almost at 100% retracement of the prior high. We have basically a doji or a star or a hangman, whatever way you want to call it, on the weekly. As far as we are on the weekly, we are bullish. Let's take a look at it on the daily. And I just want to keep you guys be aware of this area. On the daily, it's almost, touching the prior high. We're a little bit right under it. We consolidated a little bit inside. Let's just go over here. We consolidated a little bit inside. We came touch the 18 SMA, looked underneath. On that combination of those four instruments, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Russell, and the Dow, we had 6 days push sideways, push up, then 5 days, then came back down and pushed back up. And if you notice, that low on this candle on that Thursday was 38,319, call it 320. And this gap between this candle here, that was 368,366.17, and the one up here was the high of it was 328.45. Did we fill up the gap? Yes or no? So we have filled up the gap. We looked to it and pushed back up. As long as we stay above 38,800, we are bullish. If we are underneath the combination of those instruments below 38, let's call it 38,560. Be careful of it, or 559, because we can head back to the downside of this channel. And the 50 SMA. So far on the daily chart, we are bullish. Let's go over the 4 E-mini contract, which is the Fortune 500/ES. This is the Fortune 500. We had looked above the 47. And what did we close actually on Friday? We closed actually at 47. The annual high in the overnight was 61.25. Let's just zoom into this area. We know 47 was the prior high from the year before. We came back and closed where? At on the 4 o'clock close, it was 49.25, but the 4:15 close was 29.47.50, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So we just have to keep an eye on it. We looked inside the channels. We still have that gap from 2 weeks ago. We never filled. We went up, consolidated for 6, then pushed up, then grinded 5 days and pushed up, looked above. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday down on federal announcement, because he was talking about a little bit of inflation, a little bit of that overall look. Always the Federal Reserve Board, when Powell speaks, or when Janet was around, or Bernie, 100% of the federal move, whether it goes up or down, it is 100% retraceable in the direction it went against. So if it went up, that means it's going to come back and reset to where it started from. If it went down, where it went down from, it's going to go back and retrace to that side. So I want you to be aware of it. I call that 100% retracement. It doesn't have to happen the same day, but in the future, the Fed announcements are usually retraceable. Keep that in mind. So on the daily, as long as we are above on the 29.40 area, we are bullish. Keep an eye on 29.23. This will set us up to the downside, or 28. If you want to do 29.18, that would be very critical if we lose it, because the morning low was 29.1650. If you want to go with this candle or the candle from the overnight, which was 29.01, and if you're following me on Solstice, or you will follow me at Twitter, I said that morning, keep an eye on 29.01 quarter. We missed it by a quarter. We went under it by a quarter and took off back to the 29.08 to the 23. We're around the 29.16 in the close. The following morning, we opened on a gap up. The momentum stayed up on Friday very high. We cleared the 38.29, which was the 61.8 fib from the high to the low. If you measure this distance from the low 2900 to the 29.61 quarter, 61.8 was 29.3850. Everybody was thinking that would be resistance, but since the momentum in the Nasdaq and the New York Stock Exchange was very strong, it kept us elevated and we continued higher. We cleared the 42. I was expecting maximum 42, 42.50. We cleared that. We got to the 47. Eventually in the afternoon, they pushed it a little higher to the 49.50. We closed at the 4 o'clock at that 9, but we came back and closed on the annual high at 4:15 at 29.47. Just be aware of it. Let's go over quickly the Nasdaq and Q. The Nasdaq is a little bit in a similar situation as the S&P 500. It's the strongest out of the group. We are above the annual high and we almost cleared the prior high. This candle is an engulfing of those candles that brought it down. We had a, doji, and Friday was a nice push up. And if you notice, I had an oval here. We actually tested it on the daily nicely to that level and bounced off it. You see it? Very nice reset and pushed up on Friday. I mean, anybody that grabbed on Thursday, in the afternoon, a contract or two contracts, they did very well on Friday to the upside. Let's take a look at the Dow, YM. I usually don't cover much the Dow, but it is part of, the 30 companies. It's still the weakest out of the group. See, it has not, it's hovering in that downside trend where it hasn't cleared the annual high, but it may continue. And if we clear, the 26,550 area, look for the upside to finish to move higher. Let's take a look at the Russell, RTY. The Russell seems to be a little bit, started to get a little bit momentum. We had, in the annually, we had those 3 lows, and eventually we came back, retested that 1600, went above it a little bit, came back in, retested here, let's call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and eventually we came back, tested the 50 SMA, and we finally break. And remember, I said keep an eye on that low here, but unfortunately we were looking at this. See, I kept this oval here. We came back, retested the 50 and the 18. Thursday was a nice reversal from the floor from the 50 SMA on the daily on the Russell, and we eventually cleared the 1600. Where is the Russell at? At 1618 quarter. If that 1618 quarter can continue and the Nasdaq continues with the Russell, we can see this oval here and maybe 1/3 of it. I want to do one more oval a little higher if there's continuation. So you guys remember there's an up channel here. What I would do, I'm going to move this here and I would like to put it in this area for the Russell. So it'll be 2/3 of the move up into this up channel, which is 50%. 38% of it would be around here. So I'm not telling everybody be bullish, but remember, watch the technicals for direction. That's the most important thing. Don't trade what you think, trade what is given to you that day on the direction of those moves. Let's go on and take a look at oil and gold, CL. Okay, here comes CL. Let's just minimize it a little bit. Oops. Okay, CL came back to the 50 SMA, because remember, Donald Trump is treating Saudi Arabia, wants the prices higher, to be the barrel at $68, $80. We got to around the 66.60 and we rejected. We went above the 61.8. We looked into this consolidation area before we fell down through it. You see it? We went almost to it. We just touched, part of the bottom of that candle here, the upper part of this candle that took us down, and we couldn't stay up there. This candle was up, consolidation, couldn't clear, fell through, then it was followed through down, tried to lift up. We got halfway back of the move and fell down. As long as oil is below these two numbers, 64.10 and 65 cents, you're a little bit in the pressure side. So I'd like to see 64 clear, 64.60 area, 70 cents to continue higher to eventually get back half of that oval back and this channel here, because we have to do a new channel. This channel is no longer valid. So what we're going to do, remove this channel. Come on, remove it. And what I'm going to do is grab this one with this candle here, because you're almost at the 15, you're holding the 200 SMA. If this is going to be support, are we going to U-turn from here? Let's just go get a channel and draw it from this point here, this control point, to this one here. Come on, a little bit more. There we go. And we're going to grab this one here to the upper level. Okay, here we go. Here's one here. So they are actually parallel almost to each other. What I'd like to see is oil get support of the 250 SMA, U-turn, come back to 64, and eventually come back to 66, get to the 100% of the move back up to continue to get to the 68, 69 up in this channel. What I'll do, I'll remove this oval, move it to the right. Okay, everybody? Remove drawing. What we're going to do is grab the oval, copy that, and we're going to put an oval on the bottom side or the upside. So what I'll do, I'll combine it on both, so that way it'll be a little wider, a little bit bigger price so everybody can see it. We are holding this oval, so we're going to leave that alone. We're just going to move it to the right, remove drawing, and just move it a little bit more to the right to hold the 50 and the 200 SMA, which I'd like to see. If it gets broken, be careful of it. Okay, this is just outline in the sand for oil in this point. If not, and we fall through the 50, the only support we're going to get is around 58.20, 58 area, to see if we can grab a little bit and go back up, because that would be, the 59 is a 50% fit from the high and low of the prior year. You see it? We went above the 61. Is it going to hold the 50 SMA or the 50 and come back clear? I would like it to hold this channel, the 50 SMA, 200 SMA, and go higher. Let's go take a look at GC. Since there is no fear in the market, gold seems to be, hovering at the 1267. Remember, I kept this oval here. I kept moving them around, remove drawing. We'll just move it to the right. On Friday, Thursday was brought down on Wednesday. Friday was back up in that channel. You're halfway through these two channels, if you notice, or you can do a wider cone. You can grab one from here to here and go wider cone, but we controlled it here. So let's just put this oval here, because it's not touching the 200 SMA, and the target would be to the upside of this area, the 50 SMA and the 1291, if there's going to be a chance for gold to come back up in that area. And we're going to remove those two ovals, because these two were, the 116 SMA were violated last time. And this area, we touched it and we rejected down halfway through the oval. Remove drawing. Let's get a channel. I'm going to do one channel on the daily. You grab this point, which is the low, to this area here, and you draw it. If you notice, this is supposed to be support. If it falls through, it would be down here, the 200 SMA. I would like to see this hold in the 66, 68 area to continue higher, to go back up here and continue back to the 61.8 up in that area. Okay, everybody, let's go look at equities. Let's talk about Apple, because it's reported. This is Apple. It came back, and if you noticed, this candle was a hanging man, it actually went into the gap, filled. You see this gap? It never filled it partially because the higher this the lower that candle was to the 216.81, and the higher this candle was 215.31. So until we get to 216.90 and push through for Apple to continue. Apple has an issue around the 220. See this little channel here? I have 219 area. That's going to be kind of a wall for Apple unless it clears it to continue to finish the move to the upside. If not, because of the earning gap, dumped, lifted, side, and pushed halfway through the, the prior candle, closed above it. It's in the up channel. What I would do is grab the channel from here to here and point it up. That would be better for Apple. That way you see where the target is on the top would be, and that would be up in this area. So what we can do is leave an oval here. If not, if it falls through, it's the back side of the 18 and the 200 area. Let's just do an oval here. That's the area we're going to look for, the 219 area, in order to run. Remember, 218 to 219 in order to finish the move back up. This oval is already no longer valid. Remove it. Remove drawing. And we'll put an oval right here. As long as Apple is above the 204, 202 area, it's bullish. If it is below the 204.95 or the 204, let's call it 204.80, watch out from Apple, because that would be the 18 SMA touch and bounce. That would be great. But if it can continue, go back to here, that would be great. If it falls through here, that would be first support. See if you can take a test to go high, long in it. And you can grab this channel from here to this candle. That would be parallel. Let's just grab one more channel. And I'll go through some other ones a little bit faster. Since, Apple reported, I wanted to go over it because everybody likes Apple. You see it's in an up channel nicely. We had a prior, the computer grabbed the cone in here. This no longer valid. Just move it out of the way. Move drawing. So you can see that there's a channel here. The computer grabbed the consolidation. We've fall through it. The computer, because there's no volume, it hasn't grabbed these 2 points yet to push it higher. So it's still, taking that point here. Eventually it'll grab this one and this one eventually and point it up. So this one's supposed to point to here. It'll grab this one, that one here, and go to the top. So far I grabbed this one and that one, so they are parallel. You're above the 50% fib. And if you notice, if you fall through here, this area here, because this is the gap, you see it between here and here, be careful of it, okay, everyone? So let's take a look at Amazon. We'll do it very quickly. Amazon looks like, consolidated, pushed up. That's where the target is. That looks good. If there's continuation, if not, the bottom side of the oval, which is the 18 SMA, and eventually, below the 7 to the around the 1825. Let's take a look at Baba. Baba, it never came back to this oval or the 180, which these two areas really did a nice job. It was consolidating, going sideways for a while, baselined and pushed up. We go to this area, see this candle here and this candle here? If we can fill this gap here, it'll continue to the upside. If not, look out. Let's take a look at Facebook. Facebook reported still in that island. You still have a nice, tried to reset, still clear, going sideways. If you clear the prior high on the earning gap, look for the upside, because it'll eventually finish the gap fill. If not, upside of this channel come back in. I'd like to see Facebook come back to the 18 SMA before continuation, but this is, my opinion. Google. So far, as long as it is above 192.80, 192.80, 194, it is bullish Facebook. If under, be careful of it. Let's take a look at Google. Google on the report, it's got a little bit of problem as well in Europe. It gapped down, bounced off a very nice fundamental ADX DMI crossings. That was around the 1160 area, popped back up. If the Amazon can clear this number, everybody keep an eye on it. 1197, 1200 area, it's going to become so bullish that it'll rocket through and come back to the 38 point fib, 50% fib, which would be the 18 SMA. We'll move this one out of the way since it's the report gone. We'll keep this one here, but we're going to move it to the right. And this one, since we bounced off it, we'll put it back here. So that was a nice bounce off that. Oh, we don't have the instrument. Okay, let's get the oval. We bounced off that number. If you can clear 1297, keep an eye on it. This area here. Okay, I'm going to mark it all the way to the 1200. So if it can continue, you can get to the 18 SMA and the 50% fib. Okay, we'll keep that thing. Okay, let's just go take a look at Netflix and NFLX. Netflix still, you know, it was going sideways, up and down, up and down. It's very choppy. Eventually, it's forming a nice rounded bottom here. If this rounded bottom, when we can clear this candle here, see, it's just right. I mean, it's 386.8. If we can clear that, we can continue to this upside to fill the gap in here. You see it? And eventually get to the upside of this move over here in the oval. We're going to put an oval here. Remove this one here. So this is the gap in it. We're just going to be removing this one because it's part of the, you know, this area here. We'll leave that there. This is no longer valid. Remove oval. Remove oval. I always like putting ovals. It makes it more visual, more easier to see. This oval here is going to be not going to be visited this fast. This one is already taken out on the push up. Remove drawing. And we'll put one around the 61.8 to 50% because that would be the 18 and the 50 SMA. I mean, if it comes back and, you know, get a push up, that would be a golden ticket. If it pushes above and clears, you know, this area, look for the gap fill and eventually get to the upside. Let's take a look at Tesla. Remember, Tesla is announced on Friday, and Elon Musk wants to spend $25 million on a new offering of their shares, probably because they need cash flow, because they're a little bit underwater, they've been under pressure. Does the company come back and eventually recuperate from this downhole move? This is one thing I want you to be careful. If we clear that 260 area, this area here, 265 to 270, I think, you know, after the 50 SMA, I think eventually the 296, 305 would be to the upside in Tesla. Okay, I'm going to mark this area here very nicely. I'm going to remove this area here. Remove drawing. Because I was putting the 50 SMA. This is the first, you know, 100% retracement. I have not changed the fib, if you notice, from here to here. We touched it so many times on the weekly. We looked underneath. We went to the 230 area. When we came back to the 247 on Friday, it was a nice push up on the announcement. Look, where did it stop? Right underneath the 18 SMA. Remember, that's your 38.2 fib. If it cannot clear it, it gets to the 50 and eventually gets to the 61.8. I'm going to mark the 61.8 and the 270 with a bigger oval as well. For support, keep an eye at 240. If it goes below 235, it becomes bearish. Be careful of it. And let me just show you how it looks like on the weekly or the monthly. That way you guys can see it. Okay, that's the weekly. See, it's halfway through that engulfing candle. Let's go to the monthly. Time frame, we'll go 5 years. We'll go monthly just to show you how it looks like. See, it's a double bottom. It's inside that down channel. You turning up, you know, the backside of this down channel from here. Finally, you know, you touched it once, twice, let's call it 3, you know, because this was parallel on the weekly. 1, 2, 3, we came down and we pushed back above that 250, 247. If that area clears, we're going to get back to that 270 area. That would be wonderful, and eventually fill the gap to 296, 300, and that would be the 18 SMA on the monthly chart. So remember, I'm not going to say I am very bullish on Tesla, but there is an opportunity since there is an offering of those shares in the market. There's going to be a little bit more circulation. Maybe they say, hey, Tesla's been, from 380. Is there an opportunity for us to buy above that 270, which is the 50 SMA on the monthly chart? Let's go back to the weekly. And let's see where the 50 SMA is. The 50 SMA is about 305. You see it 300 area. Now if we go back to the daily, this would be a great screaming buy because the institution are going to look at the 18, 20. They're not most of the time on the 20, but I look at the 18 SMA and the 5 to give me a range. I mean, that 38.2 fib, this is my 18 SMA and this is my 50. If it can clear this up channel here, we're going to fix this a little bit more. We're going to change that channel to be a little cleaner. Remove drawing. We're going to go get a channel. And I'll finish with WYNN and Exxon. Just 1 second, people. Okay, let's see. We're going to grab this pointer here to this pointer here. And I think that would make it more nicer, cleaner cone, because remember, every time we tried to go down, this one's the wick that took it down. And now when we look at it a little bit more in detail, you can see that roundness inside that channel coming up. If we clear this 61.8, 38%, 50%, 61.8, and eventually that 50 SMA, and eventually fill part of that dump, that 295, 296 would be the resistance, and you can get to the 301, 305. Eventually it'll start to be a screamer on the daily charts, but I'm not saying to be bullish, but this is my opinion, okay? That's Tesla. Let's take a look at WYNN and ExxonMobil. WYNN, I don't see much in it. It's still inside this channel trying to punch out. This is an area where it had, that little resistance. You see that little oval here? That one here, we touched it. It needs to clear it in order to fill the gap and go up to that consolidation area. If it cannot get there, just the setup is not there unless we clear those tops, this one here and these ones here. Okay, everyone? Let's take a look at ExxonMobil, XOM. Exxon seems to have found a little support around between the 77, 78. It's always been, that area where it always had that little bounce. If it cannot, look for the 50 or the 38. I'd like to get Exxon here because remember, oil, it's part of, the oil sector and the announcement of what's going on, between, keeping prices down or elevated. So Exxon retraced after it lost that 80, 82 area, hasn't been able to recuperate. You got the 116 SMA and the 76. If this is going to be support and you think it's going to accumulate, then eventually you'll come back, fill the $80 range, 80, 50 area. If not, I would like, at least the 50%, because you're below the 50 SMA, that's the 116. I'd like to, if I want to try to see if it's going to take a bounce, I'll take it off here. So let's just look at the bank, BANK. Oops, BANK. Bank seems to have picked itself. It's nice, rounded bottom. It kind of created let's call this the cup. That's the little handle. It pushed above to 200 SMA. If we can clear 39.05 here, and the 39.16, eventually we can fill part of this gap. See this candle here? We'll fill to the 4,000 area, and we'll just put a little oval in that area if there's going to be continuation to the upside, unless, the Fed start saying, hey, we're going to do something with interest rate, maybe not the first quarter, not the second quarter, the third quarter, and people start to get fear. Let's take a look at the fear gauge / VX. The VX, it was trying to stay above the 15. Eventually it came back under it, going sideways. It doesn't know what to do. It's been in this consolidation for a while. That 1520 area, in order to clear it, to come back up to the 16, that's when the fear gauge, you have to keep an eye on that 1520, 1540 area. If this is cleared, look out. We go the other way around and market turns south. Let's take a look one more time, the ES mini, and what I'll do, I'll break it down a little bit on a faster time frame on a 4-hour chart for you guys. I'm going to move it from here. Remember, we still have that gap in this area, lower. That 2,900 seemed to be nice. We had this Federal Reserve Board announcement down. We pushed up. We cleared, the zero line. This is the 100%. We cleared the 50%, the 38, the 61.8, and we cleared the 38%. See, that was the 23, and the overnight we gapped above it. Kept going higher. We hit the 38%. 61.8, which is 29.3850. We continued. I was thinking the 42 would be resistance. Well, they said, you know what? Not really. I mean, we're going to go back to the annual high. In the afternoon, we grinded higher on the close. They pushed it up, getting people, whoever was still short, they got caught in the hole. And whoever jumped at the last minute, they may be caught on the upper side on the push higher. Maybe if we get a little reset into here and continue higher, that would be great. If it continues bullish, it's well, might as well be bullish. So from us at Solstice ATR and Vulcan Capital, we'd like to say thank you for taking your time and listening to us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you like what you see, we do live active trading, educational in our chat